Hard-hitting, intelligent discussion, painstakingly researched, thought-provoking opinions, and deep insight when you need it most. You'll get none of that here. Broadcasting from a secret location deep within America's heartland, Unapologetically Mediocre Studios presents the No Better Than Average podcast with your hosts Jacob Cazell and Jeff Cheney.
Hello and welcome to episode number 53 of the No Better Than Average podcast, or season 2, episode 1. I don't know. How do you want to do that?
I think that gets confusing when podcasts do that.
I know. Episode number 53. My name is Jeff Cheney, and along with me today is Jacob Cazell. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing great. I hope everybody else out there is having a fantastic week as well.
Yeah.
Even though it's only Tuesday. I mean, how good of a week can you be having, right?
Well, yeah, that's
probably
true.
Not that good because it's Monday.
Oh, and that voice is our special guest.
That's right. We have got a very cool guest, Paul. We are going to talk drone racing. We did an episode way back about drones and quadcopters, and we have a bona fide drone racer with us, and who is going to regale us with some awesome stuff. And he's got some just fan-freaking-tastic videos that are just
Paul,
amazing out there.
Is your last name Nurkkala?
Nurkkala.
Nurkkala.
Yeah, the early accent, it's Finnish by descent.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I would have gotten that wrong. So we're going to get with Paul. Jeff, did you get that 80s playlist created?
I absolutely did. I tweeted out the link earlier today, and I guess we're recording on this Monday. Early yesterday, we'll put the link in the show notes as well. And if you want to get your 80s groove on, you can head on over to Apple Music and listen to our playlist.
Yeah,
pretty good.
If you guys have an idea of if you want another music challenge, or if you guys are sick of us, hounding you for suggestions, just let us know, because I'm kind of tapped out. I don't know where to go next. I don't know if you've got any ideas, Jeff.
I was thinking, disco.
Oh,
no, not really.
No.
That was a joke, and if someone suggests it, no.
All right, well, let us know, everybody. Got a couple of quick things I want to get into before we jump into talking with Paul. Apparently, we've got to talk about Canada more often, because we really stirred the proverbial hornet's nest, eh? We got more feedback last week on talking about Canada than we normally do, and our listeners wrote in to set the record straight. And apparently the people who wrote in, flaming liberals, because they were all about Justin Trudeau. So I don't really know if he's going to be a good prime minister or not, but Rick B wrote in and said, I've been listening and enjoying your podcast for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I do have some comments on your Canadian comments in the last podcast. Canada does have 10 provinces and 3 territories. I don't know how you did it, but even with your cheat sheets, you managed to miss one province. Prince Edward Island.
Which, by the way, has excellent mussels. I just want to point that out. Prince Edward Island mussels, delicious.
All I know is that he is usually in a can. He also says, FYI, Newfoundland and Labrador is one province. I want to point out that even with Wikipedia as our guide, we still managed to screw up the list of provinces, which just proves how dumb Americans are. Go USA.
I never pretended to be good at geography.
That's right.
Like, we could
totally
and multiply and divide.
We could send in like one of our airborne divisions, and Canada would just be ours. So you're like, who cares? He does go on to write, I do think it is cool that Justin Trudeau is a new prime minister. He's young and dynamic like his father and will make a big splash in world political circles. His father did the same thing in the 70s when he was elected prime minister. Although when Pierre was elected, he was a swinging bachelor, and he dated many famous women, including Barbra Streisand. Pierre eventually married Margaret Sinclair, a woman 30 years his junior. They had 3 sons. The first 2, including Justin, were born on Christmas Day. I remember my mother making some not so nice comments on this fact. She was a staunch conservative supporter. This election was extraordinarily long, and usually the campaigns are about 6 weeks long. I cannot understand the year-long self-flagellation process that goes along with picking a presidential candidate south of the border. And Rick, I cannot understand it either. We're a year away. Like, we're having elections tomorrow.
We're south of the border. It's like,
everybody south of the border is somebody, right? He said, anyway, I would be happy to advise you on anything Canadian should the need arise. I enjoy the show. And so I need to know, what's the best maple syrup? Is it Canadian maple syrup or is it Vermont? Oh,
I think that you're not going to ask a Canadian and get an answer of Vermont.
I don't know. We need to do a syrup off, I think.
Who's the best hockey player ever?
Well, I think it's Gretzky, right?
Well,
I mean,
Gordie Howe?
he is the great one, right? It's right there in his name. Howie wrote in and said, "Hi guys, this is Howie from St. John's, the capital of Newfoundland and Labrador. The correct way to say the name of the island is New Effenland." I don't know if that's the correct way, but that is the way I am saying it from now on. He actually wrote New-F''N-land, New Effenland. I like that.
Yeah.
It kind of has the same cadence as the word.
Canadians.
Those wacky Canadians. I thought they were all polite. That's kind of rude. It has the same
funny.
cadence.
Think about all the comedians.
Well, that's true. They do seem to have a lot of Canadians. They have so many Canadians in Canada.
Up there in Canada.
Up there, who would have thunk? The Conservative Party of Canada under Harper is pretty much in line with the Republicans. Liberals, like mainstream Democrats, edging towards Bernie Sanders, and the NDP, much like Bernie Sanders, over towards his left. That's a bit simplistic. Harper ran a very closed-mouth government, communicating via news releases as opposed to press conferences, which honestly, I mean, wouldn't we be okay not hearing from the president?
Yeah,
just like put a press release out every now and then?
Yeah.
I'd be much happier if he stopped preempting what I want to watch on TV.
How about the inside the fire chats instead of the fireside chats?
Yeah, something like that. It's a fireside chat, eh? He shunned the media and promoted very divisive policies. During the last 3 election campaigns, he ran very negative campaigns against the 2 liberal leaders before Trudeau. This time he ran belittling ads against Trudeau. They really ran heavily all summer, but it looks like it backfired. They lowered the bar so low that when Trudeau did well in the debates and at local speeches, people were pleasantly surprised. And I thought Canadians were always pleasantly surprised. Canadians and people from North Dakota. Turns out the conservative leaders held their vote, but had about 1 million NDP voters that went liberal, and about 2 million voters who who never came out in 2011 and voted liberal. So that put Trudeau in the seat. And I would like to point out, Brian posted proof that Trudeau looks a lot like a young Depardieu, and you can find that pic on our Facebook page. So suck it, Jeff. He does look like a young Depardieu, and that is coming from an actual Canadian. So now it is stone cold fact. That is canon.
But, okay. What does the Canadian have to do with identifying French actors?
He looks like Depardieu. That was my only point. And I think that since you've never seen the two in the same place at the same time, it's proof that Depardieu actually time traveled back, and that is Justin Trudeau. Never seen him at the same place at the same time.
I don't think that's the case, but okay,
all right,
we'll go with that.
And then the one last thing that we need to wrap up before we get into it, we received a really nice call from Carl and Jeffrey on our one-year show last week. They are the guys behind the web series Tales of a Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer, and they are just generally awesome people as well. You can hear their interview back on episode 26. They now have episodes 1 and 2 of their Tales of a Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer web series online. Definitely go check them out. I believe if you Google Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer, you can find them, and you can find them on their Facebook page as well. And they called in with a very nice little phone call.
Hey, Jeff and Jacob. It's Jeffrey and Carl from San Diego.
We're the directors from Tales of the Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer, and we wanted to congratulate you on your 1-year anniversary of podcasting. Congratulations, guys.
And I also wanted to thank you guys for the recommendation on a computer. I just got my new 5K iMac, and I love it. So thanks a lot. We'll be editing future things on that, and hopefully it looks good.
Plus, just last week, we finally launched the web series for Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer. We're on YouTube now.
Yeah, our YouTube is youtube.com/Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer, or you can just Google Fifth Grade Zombie Slayer, and you'll find everything we have: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Right now we have 2 episodes up. There'll be a new episode every Monday. I think that's it. But we really just wanted to call and say congratulations. We'll see you. We'll call back in another year when you're on your 2nd year.
Thanks.
Good job, guys.
So that was Jeffrey and Carl. So appreciate it, guys. And seriously, it's a really it's a nice little series that they're doing. It's funny. They've got some great kid actors. Go check them out. They are a couple of awesome guys. Jeff, anything that you want to talk about before we get into it? Talking drones with Paul?
Boy, no, I don't think so.
I just kind of leave it flat like that. All right.
I tell you what, I'm a little preoccupied right now. So
okay.
I'm letting you take the reins on this episode as opposed to all the other episodes where you take the reins.
I will turn the reins over, man. I don't mean to be a rein holder.
No. It's good because I don't know, man. My mind is off somewhere tonight. I don't know where.
Well, we promise no better than
Colts.
average, and we deliver it. We only have like 1 1/4 hosts right this minute. So Paul, we've got Paul with us. I found Paul on a Reddit subreddit, the Everyday Carry subreddit, which if you are a nerd like me who likes to cram too much crap in your pockets, it is a place that you shouldn't go because you will find crap that you didn't even know that you needed and you will want to cram it in your pocket. He had posted a picture of his flight loadout and it really intrigued me. And I found a link to his website, which is paulnurkkala.com, right? Am I saying Nurkkala right?
Yes.
Okay, and that is PaulNurkkala.com. And I was just absolutely blown away by all of the information and videos that he had online. Paul is a first-person video drone racer. And you've got this like quadcopter platform that you have like completely built yourself, right? From scratch.
Yep.
That shoots like 1080p video and streams video back to goggles. And like your whole world is just the drone and you're flying along at like, I don't know, 40, 50 miles an hour. It looks like crazy speeds.
We've gotten the fastest one of my group got up to 65. We were out flying one day and some cops showed up and they're kind of asking like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Do you have permission? As soon as we kind of cleared up the fact that we were allowed to be where we were, they're like, well, drove the police car right out onto the field where we were flying, pulled out the radar gun, and we're
oh, that's awesome.
Timing the drones as we flew by, and yeah, the fastest guy hit 65. I think
it's all fun and games until you crash.
Right. That I have seen was I think it was 93 miles an hour.
Jeez. and how much does that weigh? Because I mean, that's a bullet at that point.
Ours tend to be in the between 500 grams and 700 grams. I mean,
that's over a pound.
Yeah, I don't know what the conversion is back to.
It's going to ruin your day if something that weighs a pound runs into you going 98 miles an hour.
It's happened.
Yeah. Oh my god! With spinning whirly blades of death too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They will draw blood if you're not careful.
Oh my god!
If only you made those blades out of titanium. I think that would be the best choice.
And sharpen them first.
They do make them out of carbon fiber sometimes. Those are brittle, sharp pieces of carbon that have no mercy.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah. I have like a little cheap like toy drone, and I'm pretty reasonable with it. Like I can make it hover. I can fly around the backyard. Like I consider myself a decent-ish pilot. And then I was watching your videos and I'm like, oh, I'm not a decent pilot at all. I am a rank amateur. Like the videos are insane. Like you were like flipping and it looks like you're missing trees by mere millimeters almost. And it just looks totally crazy. And seriously, like my wife had to like grab my wallet as I was showing her the videos. I'm sitting with my laptop in the living room and I'm like, oh honey, you got to check this out. And she's like, nah, give me the wallet now. Actually, I think what honest to God happened, she looked at me and she just went, no. That was all. That was the entire exchange. Just no.
You can see like the cartoon style, like your eyes drop down, like it's replaced with dollar signs. You're like, ching.
Oh, she
That's
totally knows
right
me.
now.
I did. I was like, the first thought through my head was, how much would it cost to like get into this? And I realized that that is a flaw. So I guess my first question is, how did you get started in this hobby? Like, what brought you to this and this level of like crazy 40, 50, 60 mile an hour flying whirly gig of death?
It's been a process. So I've always kind of wanted to do RC stuff. But for whatever reason, I never had the cash sitting around or the gumption to go out and try it until back actually at the beginning of this year, at Christmas, I was given a helicopter, like an actual like gyro stabilizer, like where one prop spins one way and one spins the other way, just like toy, like you'd go to the grocery store and buy it, even. And that wasn't like a new thing. I've had like things like that in the past, but like for some reason this time, now that I'm a professol and have a little bit of cash sitting around, I was like,
that's a bad combination.
So I got that, and then I took a step up from that and bought a bigger helicopter that had one blade, not a variable pitch, but it has like the one blade on top and then the tail fan.
Okay.
That does the counter rotating. I knew all the technical terms for this at one point, and I've totally forgotten them. That still was also gyro rotated, so it would only roll to a certain point and it wouldn't flip or whatever.
Okay.
Still hooked. It was about that same time that a very, very popular drone pilot named Sharpoo. If you go look up his stuff, he's probably in the top 5 of the best pilots in the world right now. And he released a very popular video that, it just kind of took FPV stuff, because it wasn't really racing. It was what we call freestyle, where he's just kind of going out, doing flips over stuff, flying through things, doing barrel rolls over whatever you can find. And it was at that time that he released that video. I was like, well, now I need a drone. So kind of in the same way that you're talking about bumping into my stuff, is a very similar thing where it's like, shoot, I got to try that. So I bought myself a little tiny toy grade. You were talking about a Sima. This is called a Hubsan. It's
sure.
You can find it for $20.
It fits in the palm of your hand, right? I've seen those.
Exactly. It's probably like 120 millimeters across, something like that, from motor to motor. And I picked that up, and I was just flying around my apartment at the time, and kept practicing until this March was when I did my first build.
Oh, wow. So you haven't really been doing like the bigger stuff for very long at all.
No, not at all. It's all been in 2015 that I've been doing this.
That's amazing, because I just assumed that you've been flying for a long time with that level of precision. I mean, I've seen other people, and kind of where I got the desire to buy one. I was looking for a Christmas present a few years ago, and for my brother-in-law and my father, and I found the little Sima drones, and I don't know, they're like $30. And I'm like, I'm gonna get those. Those look fun. And so, Christmas, they got them out. We opened them up. They were slamming them into the ceiling, they couldn't fly them at all. And I could at least get it to hover. I'm like, hey, that's kind of fun. And I went and bought one, and that's all I've done with it. And, just a little $30 job. And like, I can kind of make it move around the room, but I have no ability to like do some of the crazy stunts. Like, how long, if you just started at like the higher level in March, like how long did it take to get to that level of twitchiness without like constantly hitting everything around you?
Sure. We were talking just briefly before that I've actually got an app in the App Store that I use to log flights as we kind of head towards the unknown future of laws with drones, which I'm sure we'll come back to at some point. It seemed like a good idea at the time to start writing down, I was flying at this state, I have this many hours. Mm-hmm. So I actually can go back and look and see how many hours have I spent flying my drones. And I've probably only recorded half of them, because sometimes, I'll just be in the living room and I just want to fiddle around with it a little bit. But I think the last time I looked, I had something like 35 hours of throttle time is what we call it, of like actually pushing the throttle and having the thing be in the air. So, like essentially a work week's worth of zipping around.
And that's just in like the last, 8 months? Yeah. Holy cow.
It's a full-blown addiction.
I couldn't even begin to estimate how much stick time I've got, but I would think it would be on the order of, if it was an hour, I would be shocked. And I've had the thing since like 2013.
That would be about 1 hour more.
Yeah. The biggest thing is buy a bunch of batteries. You don't have to wait for them to charge. You can just swap them in and out, and you can fly for an hour.
And that's what killed me. I just have the one stupid little battery, and you have to plug it in, and it doesn't have any brain. So if you leave it plugged in, it'll like burn itself up, and that makes it a pain in the neck to actually fly the thing. Like, I have to plan to fly. I can't just keep a battery on the trickle charger. That's a pain.
That does not go away. Having to plan.
Really? So like the higher end stuff isn't like, because I did in high school, I was big into RC cars, and I had the time and the gumption, but no money. And I feel like any of these hobbies, it's like the fire triangle. You need time, gumption, and money. Mm-hmm. Plenty of gumption, plenty of time, no money. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was a lot easier to keep stuff like, you could put a battery on the charger and walk away for an hour and it wouldn't blow up. But like with I know everybody's running LiPo now, the lithium batteries. Is that not the case? Do you still have to baby them?
That's the case. There's enough horror stories of LiPos not being as safe as we want them to be, that I do not like to leave them charged. It actually is bad for their lifetime if you leave them at full charge at all times.
Really?
And, you have to invest 20 minutes in charging one of them. So when you have, if you want to fly with 10 batteries or something like that, you've got to prepare for 3 hours of just charging while you're doing other things.
Oh wow.
And so, and then you'll between flights you'll inevitably be working on something, and you got to go find all your tools, make sure everything's put together, get all your stuff packed up, ready to go, get out the door. I bring my dog with me, got to figure that whole situation. So it just kind of ends up becoming a whole process, to the point where it's fun, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of planning that goes into it.
I want to say, when I was racing cars, and that was when you had to go to a hobby shop that had a track, and you couldn't just go out to a field. But yeah, it was probably an hour in the pits for every 5 minutes you were actually on the track. So I'm sure, like any hobby, it's probably all about the same. It's a whole lot of waiting around and twiddling and tinkering for probably 5% of actually doing the hobby part that is the most fun part.
But that's part of the fun, though, is getting good at making your stuff reliable and learning how to fix it well and fast, and learning how to be prepared, and spending time talking to the other people that you're hanging out with.
Yeah.
It's, the flying component is awesome, but the entirety of the experience, I think, is what is one of the more unique things, I think.
I'm hopeful that like the drone RC guys are like the car RC guys of 20 years ago. Like if you were having a problem, like it wasn't like everybody's like, oh, you sucker, you're going to lose the next heat. Like everybody would be right there at your pit, whatever it took, oh, I've got a spare, I got a spare piece, I've got this screw, and they would like dive in and help you get it fixed and working so that you could actually get back out there and race on the next heat.
No, that's exactly right. I'm finally starting to get to the point where I'm hopefully good enough that I can actually help someone too.
Yeah.
So now it's not just me kind of being like, shoot, I forgot this. Does anybody have it? It's, how can I help you? How can I help you fix your problem? Let's get back out. Let's fly together.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the closest I ever came on the RC thing, I built a Cessna.
Oh, that's cool.
6-foot wingspan, had it all ready to go, took it to work, was going to go to a field after work, and totaled my car, and that plane ended up in about 2,000 pieces.
You never even got it off the ground?
So you didn't crash the plane, you crashed your car?
No, crashed my car. Well, a gal turned left in front of me, and just teed it, and totaled my car, totaled the plane, never got it off the ground, never built another one. So there you go.
That's the anti-maiden flight. Like,
yeah, it's like it flew for like 3 inches, and then it hit the windshield, and yeah.
Oh, that's painful. Yeah, like airplanes always scared me because I've heard that it's not if you crash, it's when you crash.
Oh
yeah. That's not good.
Never got it off the ground.
That's sad. I feel bad for you, Jeff. I'm going to buy you a little like quadcopter for Christmas just so you have something that you can fly.
I will kill somebody, probably myself. I have no hand-eye coordination.
No, I'm going to get
whatsoever.
You. They make these little tiny ones that look like they're about the size of a $50. Yep. They're teeny tiny. I feel like you can't kill too much with that. You probably put an eye out, but you're not going to kill
dogs
anybody.
Are dead. You have just condemned my dogs to death.
So does your dog not freak the heck out? Because I have a dog, and if I get out anything that makes RC type noise, she is as far away from me as she can be. So how did you get your dog to not just tolerate it, but take her with you?
Yeah, my dog's a German Shepherd.
Okay,
and ends up on the more like, let's go figure this thing out end of the spectrum for dogs. And but she, I don't know. Part of it has been I've kind of played with her with it, like with my little toy grade ones. Yeah. Like I'll just kind of fly it around and have her chase it, and have her get tired.
So has she caught it? Has she caught it before?
She nips at it and like kind of catches it with the side of her mouth, but she never actually chomps down on it, which I'm very grateful for.
I could just see like,
yeah, good night.
Well, that's $200.
But then I take her to the flying field. I'm flying with the goggles on, so I don't. I'm less spatially aware of where the quad is than it would be as if I was watching it or whatever. So I leave her on the leash, but as soon as I crash, because you crash all the time when you're trying to do barrel rolls through the smallest possible gap that you can find, I'll just let her off. She runs over to it, stands next to it until I get there, and she's my organic drone tracker. I call her.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we talked about some of the little the minis and the toys, and they are cheap. I mean, I think I paid $30 for my SEMA. I think it's an X1, and I think you can get it on Amazon now for like $20. Mm-hmm. I know that there's a whole bunch of stuff in like the $20 to $100 price range. That's all the ready to fly, off the shelf stuff. What does it cost to get into the hobby doing it like what you're doing? Sure. Maybe not with the FPV setup, but just like the custom built from component drone. What does that really run?
Yeah. I have seen, and that's a really tricky question. So I'm going to answer that in terms of the three things that you need to do to get it in the air.
Okay.
But I'll tack on FPV at the end just to kind of wrap it up. But so I say that there's 4 systems that you need to be able to build and fly your own custom drone. The first one is your support system. You need a soldering iron. You need heat shrink tubing. You need electric tape. You need all this kind of stuff. I didn't have any of that. I've never done. I'm a programmer, but I've never soldered before. That was just never something that I had ever considered the need to learn.
Sure.
So I had to buy all that stuff, and that can be depending on how you do it, could be between I'd say $50 and $150, depending on how much you want to spend on particular things. Then you need I call it my power system. And that kind of is the drone bits of the drone. And that would be, you need motors. Mm-hmm. You need what are called electronic speed controllers, which convert the direct current power from your battery into alternating current and controls the speed and direction that the motors spin. You need your flight controller. You need a frame. You need propellers and batteries and something else that's important that I'm inevitably forgetting.
Radio?
But all of that runs between $150 and $300, depending on the power and quality and whatever of the components that you're going for.
That's not nearly as much as I would have guessed.
No, but it's the other things on the side and the extra parts and
right.
the things that you break that start to add up real fast. So it's I don't like saying it's $150 because you've also got to have all this other stuff, and you're going to break stuff, and you're going to want to have spare parts, because when you're waiting on new parts from China, you don't want to you don't want to be sitting down for 3 weeks while you're just kind of like, oh, I wish I could fly that thing. So
does that $150 to $300 include your radio gear too, or is that separate?
That's the third system. Okay. You need a radio system. And so you need your transmitter, which is the actual remote controller that you're holding, as well as what's called the receiver, which takes the signal from the transmitter and receives it on the quad, and then sends all of that information to the motors to do what you tell it to do with your transmitter. I have a $200 radio. I think it's probably the best one that you can buy. It's called the Free Sky Tyrannus, but you can go cheaper, probably to $75 is the least I would consider spending.
Okay.
But then you can go up to $2,000.
I'm sure that there are listeners out there who are probably just shocked at the cost, but coming from an RC background, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad at all. No, I mean, I remember buying,
that's not bad.
I bought a Futaba radio. Gosh, I don't know, back in 1994, I think I paid $185 for it. And it was just a 2-channel radio. And I know from looking online, it looks like everything out there is now in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. So no more crystals having to worry about does somebody else have the same frequency that I'm on and stuff like that. What kind of range do you get out of that?
So me personally, I've never really flown much farther than a couple soccer fields, just
that's far.
Just to err on the side of being safe and knowing where my equipment is and all that kind of stuff. I've been told, and I've Googled, and I've seen flight videos where they've taken a 2.4 gigahertz system out, I want to say, bordering on 3 miles.
Now, is it like a special spectrum within the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, or are you just amping the transmit power way up? I mean, you don't get anywhere near that with Wi-Fi or anything like that.
Yeah, it's you want to use a directional antenna.
Okay.
So that you can kind of focus in that signal a little bit. And people that are going out that distance are very, very careful about how they arrange their antennas on the actual machine.
Wow.
And so just by kind of tweaking with all of those things, they kind of push out further and further and further until usually when they're going out that distance, they'll carry a GPS, and that GPS will know when you've lost connection, and it'll just turn around and start coming back towards you.
Now, at 3 miles, you can't see a thing the size of a basketball that's a couple hundred feet in the air. Like, are you sending video back at that distance? I mean, is that possible?
Those people that are going to be running that are going to be running a 1.3 gigahertz video system.
Wow. That's amazing. I didn't know that you could stream video back that far. That's insane.
The video on 1.3, I've heard. I might be totally wrong on this, but I think there's been some ridiculous distances that people have been able to achieve, like over 100 kilometers.
Wow.
Kind of range on 1.3. But I think usually people are like in the 20 kilometer range with 1.3.
20 kilometers. That's
which is still an achievement. But.
That's unbelievable. So you're not buying stuff off the shelf, I'm assuming. There's not just like, you're not buying a Traxxas kit like you would with a car or something like that. Like where do you go to get your components? And like, how do you, like, is there one place that everybody goes? Or are you like, I'm buying my frame here and I'm sourcing, you mentioned China, and I'm in another hobby, which is ridiculous. It costs too much money, and we source stuff out of China all the time. And, it's, some of it is, you've got to know what you're getting and what you're doing, because there's language issues and you're never really sure what the specs are. So like, how do you get all this stuff? Where's your go-to sources?
Well, so you're talking about a Trax kit. My first foray into do-it-yourself building was a kit that you can buy at miniquadbros.com. They have a great kit that a lot of people start out with, that I actually have some of the components from that original build in my quad right now. And cool. And so that was like I think that was $180, and that gave me the entire power system that I mentioned, except for batteries.
Okay.
But now I'm generally, I spend a lot of time kind of searching around and kind of figuring out like what are the combination of electronics that are going to give me the kind of performance that I want. So you could buy different things to achieve different goals. Like, are you trying to carry a lot of weight? Are you trying to go really fast? Are you trying to corner fast? Are you trying to do acrobatics? Whatever. So depending on what you need, that's when you kind of start to shop around to figure out where you can get that kind of part.
Okay.
And I have bought from eBay, I've bought from Amazon, I've bought from one of 5 different multi-rotor retailers. It's wherever you can find the thing that you need. So
you get to a point where you're just like, I need this one very specific thing, and then it's just finding that one very specific thing.
Yep.
So if somebody wanted to jump in and they're like, I don't want like the off the shelf, like the SEMA, the Hubsan or whatever like that. Like what is the best bang for the buck? Is it that kit you're talking about from the Mini Quad Bros, or is there something else out there someone can get their feet wet with? Like if you were telling a newbie who's starting over or just starting out,
Jacob,
hey, yeah, I got to get something out of this podcast too. Like, what would be the, here, get this, get that, and you're all in. You're like $300, you're done.
Yeah. If somebody asked me, and they weren't being super super focused on the budget, but more focused on having a good flying machine and having a good first experience, I guess. Yes, I would 100% say get the Mini Quad Bros kit and get a FR Sky Tyrannus.
Okay. So, and
that'll be about $350. You'll have to find some batteries, which is kind of another part of that. So you're going to be looking in the $400 to $450 range, depending on what you do. That doesn't include the FPV stuff, though.
Right. Now, I totally want to talk about that, because I know nothing about that stuff. It looks amazing. But so you get into that, and like, is that a system that you can grow with, or is that like, are you going to be buying another system in a year, or in your case, 6 months?
Yeah. No, I mean, I still fly with my Tyrannus every day. I think it's the best radio that you can get. And I have some original components from the Mini Quad Bros kit. Parts of the frame. I've replaced all of the electronics for whatever reason. Just as I'm continuing to get better and better, I want more and more power.
Right.
And as a result, I've replaced the motors, I've replaced the speed controllers, the flight controller is the same, the props are slightly different. But for the most part, I'm just, as I take the next step, as I kind of go for the next level, I just, take this set of components and replace it with this set of components and, just continue to build on it.
Now, I remember maybe a year or two ago, I had seen a posting on a tech blog, and it was talking about, and I'm not going to remember the name of the group, but it was a group that was building firmware for more autonomous type vehicles. But basically, it was I don't even want to say third party, but it was firmware that you would download and put into your, I guess, flight controller, for lack of a better word. Like, I'm coming from the RC car world, where it's basically it's a speed controller, a receiver, and a steering servo, and that's about it. And so depending on which software build that you installed, it had different capabilities. And I mean, so do you even get into it where, like, oh, it's Tuesday and I want to fly this style, I'm going to put a different firmware on the copter? Like, how interchangeable does that stuff become?
So let me talk about different kinds of firmware, and then I'll answer that question. So there's, I think, I'll talk about 4 that are the most popular right now. There's base flight, clean flight,
the third one.
It's I'm trying to remember the name because it's changed a few times. It's made by 3D Robotics. It runs on the Pixhawk flight controller, but the name of the software is, I think they call it Quadcopter. That might be an old name though. And the DJI system, which is flown on like the Phantoms and the really popular consumer aerial photography drones.
Can you run DJI firmware on other platforms, or is that strictly for DJI? You
have to run it on their hardware.
Okay.
But so clean flight and base flight are kind of reserved for the multicopters. The DJI firmware is reserved for their hardware. So, but you can buy their flight controller and GPS and stuff and stick that on any hardware components that you want, but you need their flight controller.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were just turnkey. You buy a DJI Phantom or an Inspire and you're done.
Nope. You can buy what's called the NASA 2 and the NASA Lite.
Okay.
And I think you can actually hack the NASA Lite into NASA 2, which gives you a bunch of really cool functionality that would otherwise be really expensive. But you can buy that set of components, take their software, put it on them, and then put it on whatever drone you want.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Nope.
Very cool. So I just lost my train of thought.
Well, let me answer your question really quick then.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right.
When you're asking, am I going to switch firmware on a different flight? Not usually. I will pick a different firmware for a different kind of build.
Okay.
But day to day, there's a lot of effort that goes into what's called tuning that makes that kind of takes that firmware and adapts it for your particular set of hardware, because there's so many different components that you could have, different weights, different balances. You've got to actually tune it by changing a set of variables to get it to fly just the way you want it to. So I'm not going to go and switch one firmware to another when I'm going to go out, because I want it to be flying the way that I'm used to. It would be like molding your baseball glove, essentially.
Right. So if someone's just getting started out, I mean, that sounds really like getting into the minutia of getting ready to go and fly. But if someone's just starting out, I mean, is it easy enough that they can put a firmware on there and they can fly? It may not be as customized, or they may not be able to tweak out all the performance, but they can at least, hover stably, go forward, go back, roll, pitch, yaw, all that fun stuff. I mean, is that possible, or do you really have to learn a lot before you jump in and do it?
So 3 things. The Mini Quad Bros kit comes with a set of recommended tuning parameters that you can just dump onto your thing, and it should fly just about right. Because he's selling the same components, the same set of components. If you build it the way that he's given it out, it'll fly very, very well. Out of the box, any build will get in the air, but there will be some really weird characteristics that will make it a little bit uncomfortable and awkward. Usually those can be done away with just a little bit of research. But finally, I definitely recommend spending a lot of time learning, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, spend time on like reddit.com/r/multirotors, on RC groups, and just spend a lot of time getting familiar with the terms that you need to know when you have that problem and when you think something's wrong, so that you can kind of go out and ask the community easily.
Right. So I know, like, for almost every hobby I've ever been in, there's usually like a go-to place. Like, what's the go-to place for, researching, getting help, learning, stuff like that? Like, is there like, multirotoruniverse.com or something like that? Like, what's the place that you should start with?
For me, it was r/multicopters on Reddit. For many people, it's rcgroups.com, which is kind of a forum. And I think, actually, if you've heard of Flight Test, they have a lot of interesting content on very beginner stuff on how to get going.
Okay, that's cool. Now, I think I don't remember if I saw the word drone racer in the Reddit stuff or if it was on your website, but so I've heard drone, I've heard quadcopter, I've heard multirotor. Like, what is the right, like, correct thing to call these things?
Under the gun, I would say the right word is multicopter.
Okay.
But drone is becoming a very popular word.
See, I don't like drone because that has a lot of negative connotations with it. It
does, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to sit down and explain, it's actually a multirotor and here's why and here's all of the reasons. Like, so I've kind of erred on the side of steering into the skid there and owning the word.
I think drones are to me, a drone means that it can function independently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, like I would call like a Phantom, a DJI Phantom, a drone, because you can basically go on your phone and go fly here, come back, and it'll go and do it. Right. And you can put the controller down. But you don't have any of that stuff on your systems, right? Mm-mm. Now, could you add that to your systems?
To a limited sense.
Okay. So you're never going to make it like fly out, get a gallon of milk, and fly home.
Yeah.
Because that would be awesome.
So on my racers, I fly Clean Flight, which has some very limited GPS kind of responsiveness. I think the biggest feature that it would have would be return to home. But it wouldn't have like autonomous waypoint navigation where it's like, go here, go fly there, get to this altitude, go over here, drop down, dump your payload, come over here, land, that kind of stuff. That isn't, I don't believe that's supported in Clean Flight, which is the racer firmware.
Now, it sounds like, if you're flying within a 3 soccer field radius, though, that's not so far away that I suppose it would be probably hard to find the thing in a field 3 soccer fields away, but it's doable. So, not like you're not 2 miles away or something
That's
like that.
That's why I bring the dog.
My dog would just run. It would not be good. It would be a bad thing. So like, it doesn't sound like it's too crazy to get into the actual like flying platform, although there's a lot of fiddly bits it sounds like you need. But so like, did you just jump in quickly with the video stuff, or did you get your feet wet for a while with just flying, like visual flying, or like what made you go, I need to strap a camera on this and pump it right into my retinas? Because don't get me wrong, that's cool, but like, it seems to me like that's an advanced move.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so for me, it was a matter of cost. I'm married. I have a very strict budget for what I spend on my rotor. So I bought my kit and I bought my batteries in subsequent months. And so in that first month I was building, and that second, and it didn't take a month. It probably takes me 6 hours to do a good build. Right. Now that I kind of am more familiar with what I'm doing. But so for that next month, before I could invest in my FPV system, I spent learning how to fly this machine line of sight very well. Line of sight being with your eyes, not with the goggles.
Right.
And I honestly, that's something that I recommend that everybody does, is learn how to fly well without having the crutch of FPV, because FPV can go wrong. It is another point of failure on your device that you are now responsible for, flying through the air at 60 miles an hour, weighing over a pound. If you cannot be in control of your machine at all times, I definitely recommend that you be able to fly it both with the goggles and without the goggles.
Is it easier or harder to fly FPV though?
I've heard it both ways.
Because to me, like for me personally, I'm just trying to think, obviously not so much this, I'm thinking video games. So if I'm doing a racing simulation, for me to drive a car, it's easier to do that first person view. Mm-hmm. it's just easier for me to take turns than if I'm seeing the whole car. So I just kind of wondered, to me, like, one of the things that intimidates me about quadcopters is like, which side's forward? And if you're in that first person view, obviously left's going to be left, right's going to be right. You're never going to get confused as to, okay, what direction am I going? And I don't know.
Right. I personally thought that starting FPV was a lot easier than starting line of sight.
Okay.
I'm 100% with you on that. Like, I play a lot of a game called Battlefield 4, and in that game you can fly helicopters. And I thought that the mechanics of flying the helicopters was very similar to the flying mechanics of first person view drones. That being said, not everybody agrees with me on that. I'm not sure why. Some people are just more comfortable with learning to fly it with their line of sight. If you were to learn at line of sight, my recommendation is to always be moving forward. Don't try to fly it like a copter, because when you're trying to consider, all of the different axes independently, it's a little bit more mind bending. But if you kind of fly it like a plane and you fly it and kind of always have a direction that you're going in, it makes more sense to your brain, which is not used to thinking in this way. Does that make sense?
It does, and that was actually going to be a question I had. Is I suppose once you're flying FPV, that doesn't matter as much because, like Jeff said, forward is forward, back is back, left and right are left and right, because your visual orientation doesn't change. But where I have a real hard time, like you said, if I fly where the multirotor is facing away from me, so forward is forward, left is left, right is right, no problem. I can fly it around the yard like a champ. I can hover and spin in a circle. What's that? Is that cyclic control? No problem. When I try and combine the two, slam into a tree every time. And if I get it away from me and then turn around, so I'm flying back towards myself with back is now forward, forward is backwards, left is right, and right is left. Oh, slam into the ground. Like,
yep.
Did you ever get that mapped in your head, or how long does it take to map that in your head, or do you just slam into the ground like I do?
I can fly line of sight. I wouldn't call myself great at it, but I can get it from A to B, and I can do it generally without crashing. It was so the way that I did it was, and I don't know if this is going to be the case for everyone, but when I'm learning, like you were saying, when it's facing away from you, it's much easier than when it's coming at you or when it's coming laterally across, because the directions are all normal. Like, you just push forward and it goes forward, you push back and it goes back. But you want to learn those other directions because inevitably something's going to happen where it's spinning away from you or something like that. And so what I did was I would just fly a circle and land. So I take off, fly a circle around to the right, and land. And that's kind of that just kind of helped me get used to continuing in that forward motion, getting used to how it's going to feel when it's coming around the corner, and then the landing is actually really nice to be able to do well, and then take off and do it the other direction. Once you get comfortable with those, with just doing the turns, now try doing a figure eight, and eventually it'll just click. Like, that's kind of that's kind of how brains work, and so eventually it'll just kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and you'll start to kind of get that muscle memory, and it'll go.
I got to put in a lot more stick time because
yes.
I'm way far away from it feeling like it's gonna click. So to talk about the first person video, I'm assuming that's what FPV is saying. If I'm saying the wrong acronym, but
first person view.
First person view. Okay, I was throwing video in there because it's video. So like I know that I've seen some of the like $50, $75 off the shelf jobbies, and I've read reviews on them, and they have the video that'll stream back to the either controller has a little screen on it, or you can pair a smartphone with it. And usually I've read that the range is spotty, the quality's bad. So like when you jump into that, like what do you do to make it so that when you're zipping along that the quality isn't bad and the range isn't bad, so that you can stay in control of the darn thing? Like, what does your setup look like, I guess?
Yeah. So with the ones that pair to your smartphone, for example, those are actually going over Wi-Fi, and those are using the 2.4 gigahertz signal. And so you're sharing the signal between your transmitter and your video. And that is a digital signal, not an analog signal. And the digital signal, because there's a lot of transcoding and encoding, all that kind of stuff going on, it has a pretty serious latency.
Okay.
So, you make a change and it's going to be, 300 milliseconds before it responds on the quad or more. And
that's a noticeable lag. I mean, a third of a second.
I mean, you try playing a video game with 300 milliseconds lag, you're essentially competing with someone in Russia.
Yeah.
Like that is the amount of, and that kind of just becomes unacceptable when you're trying to do something really close and tight, against a tree or whatever. So the solution to that is to kind of step back a few years and use analog signal. And on racers especially, people use the 5.8 gigahertz band, which is also a Wi-Fi frequency. So instead of using those signals, now we're sending the signal directly across 5.8 gigahertz, and that brings it down to something like 40 milliseconds. And most of that is the time spent in the camera. And so you're in near real time. I think that's within like a few, maybe 10 milliseconds of like even perceivable amounts of latency.
Oh, wow. Now, I'm assuming the downside is you're not streaming high def, or is the system, so they haven't gotten to high def yet for the streaming stuff.
Right. And there's some pretty serious, and I don't know all of the theory behind it, but there's some pretty serious limitations to analog signal and signal strength to be able to send analog HD signal. And they're making strides towards digital HD signal with zero latency, but it's not there yet. And I think it's going to be a few years at minimum before that happens.
So like, I know that all the videos that you capture on your website are 1080p, and it looks like from some of the stuff I was looking at, on like how you build the actual machine. So it looks like you're carrying two cameras then, and carrying like a GoPro type camera. I don't think you use GoPro. You use, what do you use?
It's called the Xiaomi Yi. It is a 1080p 60 frames per second knockoff, that actually came out in the last year, I think. And, it does a pretty good job. Like you can tell that there's a quality difference between it and the GoPro. But for the purposes of, it hurtling through the air on the front of your quad at 60 miles an hour, you don't want to be doing that with your $500 investment, though people do.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they do.
That was my thought process anyway. And I'm currently on my second one. The first one, smashed square into a wooden beam and is no longer with us.
The hazards of flying at 60 miles an hour. Yep. Okay, because I mean, I'm sure you probably could see a different side by side, but I mean, I think the videos look amazing. And when you're flitting just a few feet off the ground at those kind of speeds, it was exhilarating for me. I couldn't tell you that I was lacking for anything. So I saw you had some articles on your website about like your original setup was a ground station, and now you've packed it all into your head mounted display. So what was your setup originally, and then what did you manage to condense it down into?
Well, it was kind of just a matter of need. So when I was first getting started, I would kind of plan to be out for a really long time, to kind of set up, to think through things, to make sure to plan that something was going to go wrong and I have to do some repairs there. And I still plan for that. But and so I usually had a lot more time to just go out and sit down and unpack all my stuff and set up this ground station. And so I had this tripod that I would set up, and then I'd take my video receiver, which takes the analog signal and converts it back into video for you. Put on my antennas, hook up my battery, hook up the goggles to that, set up my lawn chair, and and that just kind of got old after a while, having to set all that up and then tear it all down when I was done. And if you're trying to get a quick flight in after work or something like that, it just gets a little inconvenient. So necessity kind of just decided, okay, we're going to solve this problem. And so I was actually out of town. I was like, I want to go across the street and fly, but I don't want to take my whole ground station over there. So I was like, how can I jury rig this? And I took a bungee cord and literally just strapped everything to the outside. And it was ugly and it was hilarious looking all at the same time. But I kind of just continued iterating on that until I got it all packed into a nice compact form that wasn't as ugly as it was then.
And to be fair, compact form is a relative term, because I can't really tell from the pictures and the videos, but it looks like those goggles stick off your face like 6 or 8 inches. I mean,
yeah,
it is a big, bulky, like it reminds me of like 1998 VR systems where it's like this big thing that just hangs onto your face. Like, how much does that weigh? Does it kill your neck, or does it sag? Like, how do you keep that on?
Yeah, it's probably about the same size as like an Oculus Rift would be. So maybe that would be a good point of comparison for a listener. It's heavy. I've done some. So the reason that I have this really awkward, chunky set of goggles is again, cheapness. You can buy it comes with a screen, these nice foam containers, and all of the wiring that you need for like $40.
Oh, wow.
A comparable like set of goggles, like Geordie LaForge style, like visor kind of system, those can go between like $200 and I think $600.
Yeah, $40 sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple other things that you need to get with it, like the receiver,
right?
But so the budget system works pretty well, and so I've kind of taken it and made it my own a little bit to make it perform a lot better and to be a little bit more, a little bit nicer. And so I have like a glass lens that it's inserted there that's really heavy. The receiver is on one side, and that with the antennas mounted is pretty heavy. I've got a fairly large battery on the other side, so it does get a little bit. But you're only wearing it for 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, and then you take it off and go fetch your quad and hook up your new battery, and then you sit down and go again.
So even with the fancy batteries and everything, you're still only getting like 5 minutes of flight time.
I don't like to think of it in terms of only 5 minutes, but in terms of I'm juicing it for every bit of power that I can so that I can go as fast as possible and create really cool content.
Yeah, and you're probably dumping a huge amount of energy in that 5 minutes too. I mean,
a full throttle burst will be pushing like 120 amp hours.
Oh, wow. Out of a battery that looks like it's just a couple inches by like a half inch or something like that. That's amazing.
So do you have any problem with motion sickness?
If I stand up and do it, it gets a little bit tricky. I've kind of actually been practicing standing. I'll kind of like lean back and forth a little bit, and feel like I'm going to lose my balance. But not if I'm sitting down. No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Like, that would add a whole nother layer that would just guarantee that I crash the quad and then I fall on my face if I tried to stand up and move while I was doing that.
Yeah, one of the big ideas is that it's kind of you're safer. You're not hurtling through the air yourself. You're just sending your equipment up. So, but if you're falling off your chair, maybe it's just as dangerous.
So you had kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but talking about some of the legality issues, and obviously big news like 2-3 weeks ago, the FCC talking about, potentially wanting to require registration for certain drone platforms and things like that. And you even have created an app. I think it's available for both iOS and Android, right? And it's called Flight Logger, and that's FLIGHTLOGGR. So it's all Web 2.0 with the name.
Yeah.
So what are some of your thoughts on like what the FCC is coming out and saying, and just some of the stories? Because I mean, there have been some stories of people doing some really freaking boneheaded things with autonomous, platforms and, impeding rescue workers and flying over, sports stadiums and stuff like that. Obviously, that kind of stuff has got to give a bad name to the hobby, to the general public. And then does it make it hard for you to, proselytize the hobby and get other people interested in it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good things happening with legislation on drones, but I think there's the potential for misinformation and misunderstanding to potentially hurt it a lot. Obviously, that's probably the case with anything, but I want to see the commercial industry for drones become big. I think there's a lot of amazing uses for it in agriculture, in power line and roof inspection, in just photography and cinema and all those, the industrial uses. Like right now, it is extremely hard to become a professional drone pilot. You need to have licensure and you need to have exemptions and all of this stuff. So having a set of clear expectations around who is allowed to commercially fly drones is going to be amazing for the industry as a whole. And I think there's going to be some amazing next steps that happen. That, I mean, even like Amazon Prime Air or whatever they call it, those kinds of things are going to be awesome. But the other side of that coin is, are we going to create so many rules and regulations for hobbyists that it makes it hard to just kind of, for me to go out to the park with my dog and, make some cool videos.
Yeah.
It's a tricky situation to be in. And from what I've seen, I think everything's going in the right way. But again, there's the potential for misinformation and mistakes and improper usages of the technology to create problems.
I saw something, gosh, I guess it was about a week ago, and I thought it was interesting. It was posted on Facebook, so it's got to be 100% fact because nothing else would ever appear there otherwise. But it was
everything on the internet is true.
Everything on the internet is true. Ladies, I'm 6'4" and handsome. But it was a link from a news outlet. It was one of the national news places, and it was a story of it was a drone that had been shot down by a neighbor, and I didn't even read the story, but there were hundreds and hundreds of comments, and I was scrolling through the comments because I hate myself apparently and like to read the unthinking opinions of the unwashed masses, and I would say that the comments were probably 9-1 of, if I saw a drone flying over my house, I'd shoot it down. And, those drone pilots, they don't deserve any rights, and it's just creepy. And it was very negative towards, the whole thing as a whole. So like, how should responsible, multi-rotor pilots behave so that they can convince the general public that they're not all a bunch of idiots who are doing stupid things with these toys that, admittedly, like, for not a lot of money, you can get something that'll fly a couple of thousand feet straight up. And, like you said, it's flying 60 miles an hour. It's basically got a bomb strapped to it because it's got a lithium-ion battery. It's flying whirly propellers that, how fast do the propellers spin? They cut your head right off, probably. It is a dangerous thing. So, how do responsible pilots get other people to be responsible and make it so that the public perception shifts and changes for the better?
Yeah, it comes down, I think, to information, to know what you are and are not, what you are and are not allowed to do, to know where you are allowed to fly. The FAA, for example, is working on an app that lists out all of these places are places you cannot fly, be it, around airports or temporary flight restrictions. Like when the Pope was in town, they had a big no-fly area over where he was, and those sorts of things. So it comes down to these things are not toys. No matter what way you spin it, they are dangerous, heavy things that can hurt people. So it is on you to know what you are and are not allowed to do, and to be responsible according to those things.
Is there the average so does the average person have a way to know that? Because perfect example, I was in Best Buy 2 days ago, had to make a return. And so after I made my return, I was just kind of wandering through. I had a little bit of time to kill. And I ended up over in just a random aisle that had like a weird assortment of stuff. But right there on the shelf were, they had the DJI Phantom 3 and the DJI Phantom 3 with the video camera on it. It was, one was $900 and one was $1,200. And, I could have just bought one, taken it outside, and I know that those DJIs will go 2,500, 3,000 feet, and they'll fly for like 15 or 20 minutes, and you can do the autonomous. I want to fly over here, and you could turn it into a flying bomb. Like, not that people are necessarily doing things malfeasantly, but like if some guy just walks in and goes, "Oh, look, I could buy that for $1,000." Like, is there anything that educates that person? Obviously, you are into the hobby, you are connected, you know these things, but how do we get the message out to the guy who just thinks it's cool and buys one at Best Buy?
I think that's a big part of the legislation and the rules, and making it clear what expectations are laid on you. There's a program from the FAA called the Know Before You Fly campaign, I think they're calling it, and that has a listing of, don't fly at this height, don't fly in these areas, do this, do record this information, and those are kind of the guiding principles. But I mean, it all should come back to be in control, know how to fly your gear, don't do it where you're going to hurt people. You're right. There is no good set of communicated principles to someone who can just go in and buy it off the shelf.
Well, and don't fly it over your neighbor's house. I mean, you're out flying it in fields where you're not. I mean, honestly, like I agree with the 9-1 people. If someone's flying over my house and they're hovering outside a window, I'm going to shoot the freaking thing down. I mean, that's creepy, dude. Don't do that.
And I think in this particular instance, I guess maybe it's not worth talking about particular instances, but he was in his legal airspace from what information I have been able to gather. But that information was thrown out by the court because of some kind of ruling about the transmission of information process. And so they went with an eyewitness account over that information. But so, yeah, you're right. If somebody was flying a drone right outside my window, I'd be pretty upset about that. But I don't think that's the majority of people.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's not what most people are doing with quadcopters or anything. But the problem is that there will be those, and
and there needs to be clear rules and regulations and expectations for those things. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, because of some of the public negativity towards, some of these platforms or whatnot, have you found it has impacted your ability to go and not be hassled, or to find places that you can go and fly and not really, get into trouble?
Personally, I've never had a problem.
Really? That's cool.
I've flown, I fly at a local church. I've actually never asked for permission to fly there, but nobody's even looked at me sideways. I fly at a school during the summer, not during the school year. And I fly at a couple miscellaneous places where we have asked for permission to fly. But within those confines, I generally just kind of go to those same places and go there where I know that I'm not going to be causing too much of a problem for anyone.
Yeah. Well, and I know we haven't really talked much about the racing aspect, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but some of the videos, like you guys have like gates and courses laid out. I mean, maybe talk a little bit about like what does an actual race look like? I mean, what are some of the objectives, and how do you lay out the course, and what are you trying to achieve? Because I was watching, I was just like, holy crap, that guy's like flying like a madman. You're flipping between two trees and then flying through a gate. It was amazing, but I couldn't really tell what the point was other than to be cool.
Yeah. Racing, I think, is my favorite part of the hobby so far. I kind of originally got into this to kind of learn something new, but as I've been spending more and more time, I get to meet really, really cool people from around the country. Like I've gone to Louisville to race. I live in Indianapolis. I've gone to Champaign. I've gone to Chicago. I'm going to Atlanta next weekend, and just am meeting really cool people from all the way around the United States and online around the world. And so it's really cool to be able to kind of go out, hang out with these guys, and get to participate in a really, really fun event. I've also been a runner a little bit, and when you're out running, when you run in a race, you're out there to beat yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not there to beat your competition. You're there to have fun, and everybody is really supportive and together. I think that's a very similar experience that I've had with FPV racing.
Oh, that's awesome.
But so as far as the courses go, generally, you're setting up a course that tames the very different sets of builds, right? So when like Formula One got started back in the day, you could put whatever you wanted out on the course, and you'd have this wide difference of technical capability from, depending on how much money you had or how much whatever. And that's in the kind of early days of quadcopters right now. I think we're kind of experiencing that similar thing. So we're designing the courses to make sure that everybody slows down, and that you're focused on technical ability rather than all-out speed and power from your machines.
I got you. That's interesting. And one thing I wanted to actually touch on this, I got ahead of myself, which is usually what happens, but talking about some of the FCC issues and whatnot. So you've written an app that, you said you wanted to try and get ahead of some of those issues where you can log everything. And I think I read, I don't know if it was on your website or if it was maybe in the blurb, the notes on the app I downloaded, that you had watched a video with Adam Savage, and he had made little manual log notes. And I actually had watched that video myself not too long before I found your site, and that was your sort of inspiration to build this app to log everything. So like maybe talk a little bit about the app and what it does and how it can like help keep people out of hot water by having a log, because it is a good idea, and I'd never even thought about trying to keep a log before. But yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, the app itself is super simple. Like you were saying, it was inspired by an episode of Tested. Which is that kind of spin-off show from Mythbusters. And Adam Savage was showing his like little field notes based flight logging book, where he kind of talks about, I was flying with these people, these were the conditions, this is the time, this is what I was doing, and this is why. And he raised an interesting point to me that it was like, if I have a record of this information, if I know how many hours I've spent flying my machines, and I can kind of prove to people that I am a responsible pilot, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the law and what's going to be ruled later on. So we might as well be ahead of that and say, I am an experienced pilot. I have the records to prove it. These are where I have flown. This is why I have flown. This is the kind of flights that I've been doing. And you can just show in one fell swoop, here it is. And we don't know the value of that information yet, but it seems like a good thing to have. So the app was built around that idea, is how can I make it really easy to take that information, save it, and keep it available for me when I need it later.
Well, and it looks like the app does some really cool stuff too. Like you go in and you create, if you have, more than one, device that you're flying, you can create, multiple models, and you can have multiple batteries, and then it'll actually track, like, I've flown this one X hours and I have this many hours on a battery. So maybe if you're trying to, keep an eye on how fast they're degrading or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of good information there. And even if you're not sure what you're going to do with it, I can't see it's anything but a good idea to have that information. If nothing else, it's helpful just to be able to say, oh, well, I've got, 35 hours that I put in on, this particular, and, just being able to share that information with other people who are interested in the hobby. That's really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite is every once in a while the same question comes up, and I don't know why people are so interested in it, but they ask, what is the most wind that you'll fly in? And I can go back into my app, and whenever I save a flight, it pulls down weather information from based on my GPS location, and I can just go and I can say, boop, pull out all of these rows, give me an average, and I can say the average wind that I'll fly in is 10 miles an hour. The most I've flown in is 25. The least is 0 or whatever.
Well, that's really cool.
It's kind of fun to be able to answer those questions.
Sure. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, I mean, it's, if you're only talking, like a pound and a half, you've got to definitely take wind into consideration when you're flying at 60 miles an hour.
It's a lot easier to fly in wind with that than with a fixed wing, like a hobby plane or something like that.
I'm sure. So, like, I know that, the stuff I've seen on your website is definitely geared towards, the racing and the speed and the really precise, like, cornering and handling from what I've seen. I've seen videos with Adam, and I think you and I are both fans of Tested. I love the stuff on Tested, and he's really into it from like a video and photography platform. Like, do you have any interest in that, or have you looked into any of that stuff, or is it just all about the speed and the performance?
Well, so when I originally was going to get started, I was going to build a bigger thing. I've actually got the frame. And I had bought the frame and I was going to get going, but I didn't end up doing it because I kind of started seeing all of this, racing footage, and I really wanted to go that direction. But I do want to get back to that because I don't know if there's going to be a career for me in drones, but if there is, it's going to be on that end of the spectrum. So I'd like to spend some time playing with that and learning from that, and if at the least using that to just kind of get a little bit of B-roll for some of the videos that I'm putting together.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing the potential there. I mean, like we heard from Jeffrey and Carl at the beginning of this episode, and they're independent, small time filmmakers, but being able to have a platform like that they could use in some of their stuff, I think that would really open doors to them that they couldn't do today. So absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of potential and opportunity there. That's awesome.
Somebody asked me me, "What's your dream job?" the other day, and I was kind of thought about that for a second. I was like, I think what it would be to design and develop a strategy and fleet and process around using drones, both fixed wing and multi-rotors, for search and rescue. We have huge national park services. Can I put a big IR sensing camera on a giant plane and fly it out and do search patterns, and then use a multi-rotor to fly out and dump them a care package and leave them a message that someone's coming for them? We know where you are. That kind of thing. I think that would be an awesome way to take this technology and use it for good.
That's what I love about the time we're in now. There's so much stuff that you never even think about where technology can really not just be cool or neat, but assist humanity. And I mean, that's a great example. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you, find your videos, reach out to you on Twitter and ask questions, how do they do that? Where do they find you? What are all your particulars?
Gosh, I actually do not have a great way to be reached. I would say Twitter will probably be the fastest.
Okay.
You can always, I respond to all of the comments on my website. I am always looking for YouTube subscribers. But whatever you're looking for, I would be happy to help point you in the right direction. At least I have been exposed to a lot of different sides of it. So if you have a question about any particular kind of thing, I'd at least be happy to send you in the right direction if I don't have the answer myself.
So funnel everything through your website, paulnurkkala.com.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'll put a contact form up there somewhere.
Awesome, and we'll put links to it in the show notes so people can find it. Cool. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. It's been fascinating. I can already tell that my wallet is itching to open, and my wife is going to freaking kill me if I do.
I can tell Jacob's wallet is itching as well. I would prefer to just take the money and put it in the shredder, because I know that I know that I have no talent for this whatsoever. So I'm going to take a step back and save my money.
See, Jeff, but you could have a talent if you would just invest in practice. That's all you have to do.
I think that the hard work part is where I just
fall apart. Yeah. So, Paul, one of the things that we do on every episode, we always end by talking about something that we love. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to share. It could be drone related, it could be non-drone related, it could be a gadget, a book, a movie, a TV show you're into, anything like that. So I'll put you on the spot. If there's something that you want to share with our audience, we would love to know what it is.
So I feel on the spot, but my answer is super simple and just a weird luxury to me, but having USB ports in keyboards.
Oh, isn't that the best?
That is the single greatest invention since sliced bread.
Yeah, I use a wireless keyboard, so I don't have a USB port, but I've got a little hub on my desk, and it's the best thing ever. But yeah, my wife has one on her keyboard. It is awesome. I love it.
So simple luxury, but I couldn't live without it.
Nothing wrong with simple luxuries. Jeff, what do you love right now?
So I picked up a car USB port adapter.
Okay.
For the lighter.
Sure.
It's Ohmaker Intelligent 6.6 amp USB car charger. If you search,
that's a lot for a car charger.
So it's got 3 2.2 amp ports.
Wow.
And it is amazing. It's teeny tiny. It's barely the size of the cigarette lighter, and you can plug in 3 USBs. It's perfect for my family because it seems like everyone in my family always needs to charge their phone, and it's really great and very cheap. I think I paid $7 for it on Amazon.
Did you get it on Amazon? Oh, you have to send a link so we can put it on the show notes.
Yeah, if you just search for the
Ohmaker
Intelligent 6.6 amp USB car charger, you'll find it. It's great. It's, again, I've had them before. I think the last one I had was a 2-port one, but they were only 1 amp, and this charges your phone like a mother. This is good stuff.
How do they put 6 amps in something barely bigger than the cigarette lighter? That's insane.
Magic. I don't know. But it works because I had 3 phones plugged into it and they were charging fast. So it's great. It's a great little device.
Awesome.
I recommend it.
Very cool. So I'm going to do a quick update. I've got a quick twofer. episodes and episodes and episodes ago, I talked about my Tech Accessories P7 pocket hanger. What it is, it's a little piece of stainless steel. It's about an inch long. It has a hook, and then at the bottom of it, it has a little split ring, like a little teeny tiny key ring. You put it on your key ring, and then you can like hang your keys in your pocket so they don't bunch up at the bottom. And it is awesome. I love the thing. Tech Accessories is a great company, but it runs about $13 if you buy it from them, and you got to pay for shipping. I just found on Amazon there is a company called I believe it's pronounced VK Tech. I don't know how you pronounce it otherwise. And they make a clone that is $2.99 plus free shipping. It's not Prime. I think you can actually find Prime ones for about $8. But they shipped quick. I got it in like 4 or 5 days. I picked up 3 for half the price that I paid for my one Tech Accessory little hanger like a year and a half ago. And I cannot tell the difference. I mean, fit and finish, they look the same. I'm sure it's probably all stamped out of the same factory in China. So, I mean, Tech Accessories, great company to support. But if you just want something cheap or you need another one after you've bought your Tech Accessories, I highly recommend picking one up. It's great. Like if you've got like a little tiny flashlight or a little, pocket knife for your keys, I'm telling you, put one of these on and hang it in your pocket makes a world of difference. It doesn't bunch up at the bottom. It really, you got to check it out, guys. I cannot say enough good things about these little things. The other thing that I am super stoked about right now is I've been needing to get storage from all my little PC parts and bits and pieces and stuff like that. And Stanley, I just found, makes a line of cheap, amazing organizers. They have 2 specifically that I'm talking about. One is a 25 compartment organizer, and the other one is a 10 compartment organizer. The great thing about them is they kind of are like a briefcase. So they're about 16 inches wide, about 13 inches deep. The 25 compartment one's about 2 inches tall, and the 10 compartment one's about 4 inches tall. The best part is when you open them up, they have all these little organizer compartments, and they come out. Like you can take one out, and they're all divisible by each other. So there's like a large one, and then there's medium ones, and 2 medium ones is the same size as a large one, and then there's a small one. 2 smalls is a medium, 4 smalls is a large. You can rearrange them. You can put them however you want. You can take the compartments out completely if you need to store something bigger than what will fit in one of the compartments. And then the best part is when you close the lid, it has grooves on the lid that hold all of the compartments exactly where you put them. So you can pick it up. Nothing spills out of them. Nothing slides around. You can move them around. The lid latches shut, and then they nest and stack on top of each other. They are amazing. The best part is on Amazon, they're like $11 for the thin one, the 25 compartment organizer, and about $16, $17 for the 4-inch one. You can also pick them up at Meijer's for about $2 more. I highly recommend them. I have organized like all my electronics are now into 2, and I can find all of my little, my LEDs, my resistor, all of my pieces, my Arduino stuff. It's all right at my fingertips. I've got one full of, battery chargers and like all of the rechargeable AA's, AAA's, all of that. The coin cell batteries. Works great. I just cannot recommend them enough. I've actually just today built a box to slide them in so that they're all nice and organized. I'm going to be working on putting a thing on our website, so I'll have a blog entry here probably in a week or 2 of kind of like a little one-day build on that, because it's just going to fit out in the garage. I'll be able to put all my my driver nut bits on it, screws. They are fantastic. I mean, it'd probably be great for drone part storage and stuff like that. Cannot recommend them enough. They're just like the Sortimo stuff or the Bosch stuff, but they are just a fraction of the price. It's the Stanley. If I don't have the part numbers here, I'll put a link to them. They're on Amazon. They're amazing. Go check them out. I cannot recommend them enough. Great stuff. We want to thank our patrons. We didn't do that at the top of the show. So guys, those of you that support us, we greatly appreciate it. Dennis, Jamie, Jeffrey, John, Kai, Todd, and Carl, thank you so much. If anybody out there would like to support the show, throw a buck at us or a Maserati, whatever you can afford, that would be awesome. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/knowbettershow. That is patreon.com/knowbettershow. Anything that you guys give, it doesn't go to Jeff and I. We're not, fat cats lining our pockets. We're saving up those pennies that you guys send our way. We're gonna get some review stuff and do some giveaways and all that fun stuff. So anything you can do to support is awesome. We greatly appreciate it. Just want to mention again that we are part of the Geek News Central Network. So I can't talk today. Make sure you go check out our website. That is knowbettershow.com. You can find all of the other network shows on there, like Geek News Central, the Gadget Professor, the New Media Show, Elder Divide, Health Tech Weekly. There's some other great shows out there that you guys guys might like. If you want to reach out to us, tell us something we said is crazy. Tell us you want more guests. Give us an idea for music. We would love to hear from you. You can give us a call at our call-in comment line, and that number is 317-643-1212. You will talk to an answering machine and not a human, just the way God intended. You can leave your message, and we will play it on an upcoming episode. You can follow us on Twitter at KnowBetterShow. Obviously, you can visit our website, knowbettershow.com. If you send us an email, we would love to hear from you, and you can send that to feedback@knowbettershow.com. We read all of our listener email. If yours is interesting, we'll read it on the air and make you internet famous. Paul, we want to thank you again so much for coming on the show. I have had a blast. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have, and I now have to go and see if my wife will let me have my credit card back. I don't know why, but honey, I need it for just a few minutes. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, if you love the show, we would really appreciate it if you would tell your friends about us, and if you would subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. That helps us keep growing the audience. A handful of stars and a few kind words goes a long way towards helping us out. You guys have just listened to the Know Better Than Average podcast, so now hopefully you know better than average too. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening, everybody.